describe as cat and mouse. The vehicle was, they were chasing it, they were behind it, lights and sirens, it would pull over, and then the officers would get out of the vehicle, and then the driver, the suspect, would start driving again. This was an on-again, off-again type of situation, much like most of my relationships, but this vehicle right there, the officers eventually, they just said, you know what, enough. We're just gonna back off, we're just gonna stay away from this car, and then but the helicopter was above, they were surveilling it, but then the watch commander did something a little unusual for the sheriff's department and basically said, we're gonna re-engage this pursuit. And that's when they got that vehicle, the one that you see right there, that one black and white, that's the one that is doing that maneuver. There you go. And basically just spinning that thing around right there. Look at that. But this is what we've been talking about. It's a pit. That is not good. Whenever he drives, and again, going against traffic, so, and hitting a deputy's vehicle. This is gonna get a little bit more rough, as you just saw right there. And then you got folks down there with their cell phones out. That's another thing, all the law enforcement, they do not want to see that. Of course, you don't want to see anything like that. There's a spike strip right there. Now, did he hit it? That's a tough one. I was actually looking at something else, but maybe some of our viewers will bet a better view, or maybe you even, Roxia, saw if he hit it. But of course, law enforcement, they want to keep the public safe, and when these folks are running around with their cell phones out, that's always dangerous, especially towards a suspect that is fleeing officers. That driver may not see those people. Right now, though, you can see we're making our way back on Rosecrans. Looks like we're heading, if I'm just looking out the window, I believe we're going eastbound right now on Rosecrans. I'm kind of curious to see if that spike, if that front tire or that rear tire on the driver's side caught that spike strip.
Are we at a signal light right now because the vehicle stopped again? Okay, it's very interesting to me to see this because for moments it seems like it's calm, he's obeying all of the signals, and then we just saw something like this where he completely did the opposite of what we were expecting. What is in the back of that truck? I can't tell. What's in the back of that pickup?
I would venture to say, yeah, it looks like logs or stumps. Okay. There you go, using some of the power of Skyfox right there. Yeah, it looks like just some wood, some stumps, adds a little weight to it. But you know what? That's also some great catch there, Roxia. If that tailgate pops open and those start falling out, that could create a lot of damage for anybody that's right behind that vehicle, be it law enforcement and or any of those civilians. Those things weigh a good amount of weight, and then of course rolling around on the road, if somebody doesn't see it, that could create some problems. Right now, though, you can see that driver. It looks like I'm not going to get too into what the kids do, but it almost looks like he's inhaling nitrous.
Yes.
Whoa, what was, there we go. That caught me off guard, that's for sure. And this guy is inhaling nitrous and driving around down there. This is just insanity. And of course, this is probably one of this might be it.
Look at all of the officers.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get stuck there on that center divider. Yeah, all those deputies out there, and that's probably one of the reasons why they re-engaged that pursuit. You know, this driver, we just clearly saw, we believe what he's doing in there could have been helium for all we know, but chances are that was some nitrous. So this driver, very impaired while driving out here. The deputies from the Compton area chasing him, and again, right now in a very I'm just looking at the streets. I was just wondering if this was a neighborhood that I knew. We're in the Compton neighborhoods out here, but you can see that vehicle making his way a little slower now. But definitely, this is something that's so dangerous. That driver, yes, he is stopping for those lights, but you can clearly impaired this afternoon, and these deputies working just to bring this to an end safely.
Yeah, it is quite deceiving because, as you point out, you see him complying in certain traffic situations, and you think, okay, he is using good judgment, if you can call it that, but then obviously you see moments like this where, first of all, he's a DUI driver. That's why police are after him. And if he is indeed inhaling nitrous, whatever he's doing with that balloon in the front seat of his vehicle, obviously his judgment and his actions are going to be compromised. And this is very worrisome because now we're talking about him being in what looks like a neighborhood, and you just don't know who could be out there walking their dog. Maybe some kids could even be out there playing. This is very concerning.
Very concerning indeed, but at least he's driving a little bit slower. That's if there is a positive, but still, even if you're driving slower and you're that type of impaired, you just don't know what's going to happen, and you can clearly see that driver with that balloon right there. For all we know, he's not, but it definitely looks like, that's the only thing we can say right now, it looks like he's inhaling nitrous as he's driving through this Compton neighborhood. You can see the streets right there, Poplar, Oleander, and moving a little bit slower. Maybe I'll bring up the speedometer for folks if they okay that. I'm just going to bring it up to get an idea. But you know what? Even at 20 miles an hour, even at 10 miles an hour, if he strikes a child or a person that might just, like you said, just out for a walk or walk crossing the street, it still could be lethal. So even though he's driving a little bit slower, following some of these street, some of the law enforcement, street traffic enforcement, excuse me, I can't get my words out. But you can see it right there. They basically have backed off, or they have not backed off, because my scanner kind of got quiet there for a moment. But this pursuit definitely continuing. We got some pedestrians just crossing the street right there. Thank goodness he didn't make that turn.
So, Stu, this, you said, began in the Carson, Compton area. It looks like we're still in that vicinity, that area still. Call has come in as far as you know, a reckless DUI driver, and this is where we are right now. He hasn't really left the neighborhood of where this began, and it does appear that he is alone in that vehicle.
Definitely seems to be alone inside that vehicle. Definitely hasn't really left the neighborhood. And also, the speeds really haven't gotten up to anything, you know, anything really that we would call dangerous. He's actually been staying pretty much within the speed limit, unless, you know, they spin him around and he tears out of there. But he did strike a deputy's vehicle. That is going to be a huge issue for that driver. And then, of course, all this felony fleeing, that is also going to be a problem. Right now, though, that deputy, I'm trying to see if that's the same number. I believe that is the same vehicle that has been doing the pit maneuver. So perhaps they'll try it again, but it seems like it's pretty unsuccessful with that pickup truck. He's been very successful in doing the maneuver, but that vehicle just continues to drive, even though he spins it around. They tried to block it in a moment or two ago, and this is probably where it's going to come to an end because it's behind a tree. Olivier, again, he's going to try to move Skyfox around right now, but it does seem like for some reason he did come to a stop right there. But he has played cat and mouse. There he goes. Many times in the past, I was wondering if that was what was going to happen, because that is really what got our attention. We were listening to it at Van Nuys. He stopped, and then he would go, and then he would stop, and then he would go. So he's been doing that pretty much the entire time that deputies have been behind that vehicle, playing that same game again right now. So, you know, how are they going to bring this to an end? This would be a good opportunity to try to bring those spikes. Oh, it's a dead-end street. I didn't even hear that, but it does seem like some of those pylons are missing. So, and it might be a little deceiving right there, where if that's a wall or a fence. Oh, that's the wash. So he is kind of stuck right there. He might be able to make his way along that bike path. Hopefully he doesn't. But this is an interesting situation for sure. And again, you know, deputies have their weapons out. They're not here. They're not goofing around. And that driver clearly impaired this afternoon, but right now really doesn't have much of a choice of where he can go. So we're going to keep an eye on this for sure. Well,
you know, and also something to take into consideration is we don't know if this individual is armed. We have absolutely no idea, and neither does law enforcement. This is why they're keeping their distance. This is why they're now also approaching with their guns drawn. So we have to just wait and see what the next move is, if he will indeed open that door and follow the instructions and come out with his arms raised, or what he decides to do. It's quite problematic, of course, when you have someone who isn't making the best decisions under the circumstances of being driving under the influence, as police believe he is, and as we've witnessed him with that balloon and what we assume perhaps is nitrous.
That's right, very defiant indeed. And now you have a dog just on the loose out there walking along. Compton, very much a neighborhood. And right there you can see there is a, I don't know. I don't think he's got really any place to go. This right now is a little bit of
where we got stuck. Perhaps he didn't know where he was going.
You know, it definitely, this seems, you know, I was thinking the same thing, Roxy, that he's obviously from the Compton area. He stayed in the Compton area. I mean, we did kind of move over to Mingus Hills. You know, it's very close by, but he was in Compton, made his way back to Compton, and you're right, this was one of those ones where, you know, he clearly got himself into a spot where he was not familiar what was going on, coming to an end right there, and those barriers missing right there at the end of the roadway. That's kind of interesting in itself. I wonder if they're going to get somebody out here from the city to replace those even afterwards. But that vehicle could have easily, if he wasn't paying attention, could have gone into the wash. Right now, though, you can see some of these deputies, they're putting on some gas masks. So that makes me kind of wonder if you can see them right there. I'm trying to hold that shot in the center. So that makes me wonder if those deputies are part of what they would call the arrest team. They might be making their way over to the vehicle. And the reason why they're wearing that, not so much for the nitrous or anything else, but more for that irritant in those balls that are filled with the pepper, so that they're not affected when they get inside that pickup truck. Right now, though, you can see it's more of a waiting game. He was playing that cat and mouse. Well, this mouse is in a trap right now, and the cats are about ready to do something and take that guy into custody, I'm sure.
Yeah, it looks like we do see those masks. Thank you for explaining why they're doing that, because people might not have a full understanding. They're moving ahead now with those shields up. You do see them with their guns drawn and the shield up.
You know, and this is something, too, that's just the discipline involved. Oh, that's what they're doing. The different type of CS gas, they just kind of threw a container in there. It's interesting that he can put up with that. Right. I was thought for sure they were going to make their way in just to get that guy out, but clearly now being a little bit agitated, rolling down the window, and just kind of sticking his head out there. But, you know, I have never been sprayed by that stuff, never want to be sprayed by that stuff. Don't even want to know. I don't want to be in the same room. So, but you know that is very irritating. There you go. You can see him kind of rubbing his eyes, and that might actually be making it worse. We've heard that in the past, that we get that stuff on your hands, and then you rub your eyes because your eyes are irritated, and you're just making it worse. But I just wonder how long you can just put up with that in there. But you can clearly see something is starting to take effect, and that driver, that suspect,
he's still smoking. He's still smoking.
Yeah, he broke out some kind of vape device there, and it's just so bizarre to see that you can put up with that. But what's the alternative? Well, you're going to spend some time in cuffs and away from anything that's going to get you high. That's for sure.
Well, clearly he's not 100%. He's not using judgment at all. Most people who get caught up in a pursuit are not, but he has a lot of things going on, from the DUI, from the nitrous, which we assume is what he was sucking up from that balloon, from whatever it is that he's smoking. His judgment is not at 100% in any way.
Definitely not. And, you know, it's just like you said it perfectly. Most of the time, you kind of wonder, what are these guys thinking? What are you doing? In this case, we know that this person is extremely intoxicated and continues to just kind of fight that gas. I just saw him just a moment ago rubbing his eyes with his shirt. I think anything like that is just going to make things worse. And again, just hitting up whatever he's hitting right there. You can see that the smoke coming out of his mouth. Don't know if it's a vape pen or what type of vape he's using. But clearly, whatever's in that vehicle, he's trying to use up before he goes into custody. And these deputies, well, you know what? Time is on their side, but they definitely throw those containers in there. Some of that got like onto his shirt or onto his face. That has just got to be beyond irritable. And but we can't really see it. But I wonder if he's starting to water up. If his eyes are starting to burn, they've got to be. I mean, my gosh, my eyes are almost burning just watching what's going on.
Yeah, he's able to tolerate quite an awful lot. It seems like no matter what they do, he just keeps going. He's very stubborn. But you know what I noticed in this most recent approach by the officers? Do you see how they came at a wider angle? They actually kind of went around the other car and made their way over rather than right up against the police cruiser up to the truck.
Definitely, and I think that was probably maybe to get his attention or try to draw his attention to them so those other deputies could put those spike strips underneath the wheel.
You'll see the difference now. If we change it, you'll know how. Nothing ever stays the same. Once you let it change. It's like a family tree. Part of you and part of me. And if we should separate, go your own way, I won't wait.
Somebody else's camera right now, so please bear with me.
It's okay, no worries, sir.
No worries, sir.
Undo ba? What's up, brother? How are you?
Bring the funk back.